Um, 10 years ago, I was visiting 20 different American campuses, and it was just the time of Second Intifada when practically on every corner in Jerusalem there was another terrorist attack, another 10, 20 people killed, and we in Israel felt that we are in the center of the war against world terror, and in fact we are defending the values of all the free world. And after my visiting these 20 different campuses, I wrote an article traveling to occupied territories where occupied territories were American campuses. And I said to Ariel Sharon that I believe that our main battlefield is for the future of young generation of Jews is American campuses. What shocked me so much? I met Jews who were saying, as liberal Jews, it will be better for us if Israel doesn't exist. I can't say it was a majority, I can't say that there were too many, but when you hear this line in York University, and then in Harvard, and then in Berkeley, and then in San Francisco State University, and that happened in the times of Intifada, and there was film Jenin, Jenin, and many other anti-Israeli campaigns, and so many Jews suddenly feel that it will be better for them if Israel doesn't exist. Now, there were much more people who felt positively about Israel, but who didn't want to speak out. As when postdoctorate woman in business Harvard School says that I wanted very much to sign a letter in support of Israel, but I know that 3 professors from whom depends my business future would not like it, and it can influence on my grades. And that's why I decided not to do it. I thought, my God, it's not in Moscow where I grew and where people were afraid to express their views. It's in Harvard, and so on and so on and so on. I have to say, since then, a lot of things changed. Many very important programs were launched in the universities. Well, I'm very proud by our program that I'll say a few words after this of Israeli fellows on campuses. Of course, many more Jews visited Israel, and here, of course, Gidi, I'm sure, will speak about great achievements of Taglit in Israel engagement. But even 2 years ago, there was very important focus groups and search of Frank Lantz, and I saw the tapes, videotapes of these focus groups. And I have to say, it was sometimes painful to see why, because there were 2 stages. First, when Jews and non-Jews were asking about Israel, and some were speaking very harshly about Israel, and nobody spoke in defense. And then only Jews are left, and they ask about Israel, and they speak much more positively. And then they are asked, but why didn't you say it publicly? And they are embarrassed, they're confused, but they start explaining that because it is known they are Jews, so their views are viewed that whenever they speak, they have to think that the other thing that because they're Jews, they're saying it, whether it is criticism of Israel or positive about Israel. And so they feel very restricted and very cautious and so on. And that's exactly the atmosphere in which disengagement of Jews from Israel and then from their identity can happen. And that's what we have to challenge. And I am very proud that then 10 years ago we started the project, which now when I became, in the last 4 years, the chairman of Jewish Agency, we broadened it a lot. As Israeli fellows on campuses, we started from 15, 20, 50. This year, 67 campuses. There are our program together with Hillel, when young Jews after their MAMI and their first degree go and work for 2 years on the campus as part of Hillel, and all their work is to bring as many young Jews as possible to Israel. And here, of course, Birthrights is a great channel, but not the only one, but one of the main channels to bring as many Jews as possible from the campus to Israel, to bring as much of Israel to the campus, and to try to create different atmosphere. The Jews, there will be hardcore Jews who are not embarrassed, who are proud to speak very powerfully about their Jewishness. And then the big debate of the last few years is what is the right to fight against anti-Israeli events or try to create positive events. And what's really looks good for me, at least when I watch every year now, I visit more than 100 campuses. What looks good for me that there is less and less energy in the anti-Israeli campaigns, and more and more energy in the positive pro-Israeli campaigns, but still, it's very difficult to say whether you're winning the battle or losing the battle. It depends how you see it. So, in last two remarks, short remark I want to say, and there is a lot to be said about it, but in these remarks I want to say, why Israeli experiences influence so much on young Jews who are then coming back to campuses. And I spoke with many of them, not only birthrights, but with those who are spending here 6 months to 1 year. And I think it's two things. Why, when they're coming to the campuses, many of them behave differently. First of all, of course, they discover their family. In a very powerful way, they discover their identity, and that's something very important. But second, and that I heard from people on the left and the right, and that was interesting. Those who call themselves liberals, and those who call themselves conservatives. And they have very different criticism of Israel, of course. But they all say that in Israel, we found out allies. We found out that we can express any views, and we accepted part of the family. So we are not afraid now of this double thing. We really feel ourselves very free to speak. Well, of course, then they go back to their campus. But from my experience, they feel themselves much more comfortable with their Jewishness and with their right to express whatever views they want, whatever they are critical or positive about their own family, about Israel. And that's something, that's a very powerful tool in our fight to not to permit to our enemies to disengage young generation of Jews from Israel, and to the contrary, to strengthen their connection. Thank you.